Hello, this is Matt Singer. I'm the arts and culture editor at Willamette Week, and today I'm speaking with Sean Highkin. He is a Portland-based NBA reporter for Bleacher Report. And Sean, we're talking now, it's not even the 72 hours since the Blazers season ended, and it's already been a bit crazy. So I just want to kind of start with the question that I think is sort of at the core of most Blazer fan anxiety right now. I think a lot of people, if they're anxious at all about the future, it's all centered around kind of what Damian Lillard is thinking or feeling. So do you have any sense of how disgruntled Damian Lillard, actually is right now with how things are going in the organization and how the season ended?
Well, he's certainly not happy with the way that the season ended. And I mean, you heard him say after game 6, the game where their season ended against Denver, that basically they were up against a Denver team that was missing basically their entire backcourt rotation. Jamal Murray was out for the season with a torn ACL, Will Barton, PJ Dozier. They were, the fact that this Denver team was this shorthanded, and I know they have the MVP in Nikola Jokic, but the fact that the Blazers had such an advantage in the backcourt and they were still not able to get it done, despite winning the first game in Denver, and then Dame had his 55-point explosion in game 5 in the double overtime game. I think he felt like, okay, if we have all of that going for us and we still can't get out of the first round and can't even get it to a 7th game, then this whole structure, this everything we kind of have going on right now is just not really what you want. This is not the thing that I mean, because over the past few years, Dame has been pretty content to just kind of keep the status quo going. They had that Western Conference Finals run in 2019, and then he signed the long-term extension. And then obviously last year was a totally, they lost in the first round of the bubble, but you can just kind of write that off because of the shutdown and the pandemic and all of that. But this year, I think Dame felt like, especially once Yusuf Nurkic and CJ McCollum came back from their injuries where they missed about half the season, and then also once they traded for Norman Powell, who helped them a lot on the defensive end, I think he felt going into the playoffs like they had a real shot at making a run. And that was especially true after they ended up matched up with Denver, where Jamal Murray was out, and they just kind of felt like, okay, we have a good matchup here. And then the fact that they didn't win the series, I think Dame is now feeling like something big has to change. And obviously the first big move that happened was the coaching change. They mutually agreed with Terry Stotts to part ways, is how they phrased it. But that part has been kind of obvious for months, that unless they had another conference finals run, that Terry Stotts was probably not going to be the head coach anymore. And then you saw Dame really kind of stick his neck out on Friday night and really just go. I mean, I've never seen this before, even in this current era where, players kind of call the shots a lot of the time and players have a lot of say over this stuff. I have never seen a star player go on the record with a reporter, as Dame did with Chris Haynes at Yahoo the other night, and said, this is the coach that I want my team to hire. And he really, stuck his neck out and vouched for Jason Kidd. And then obviously there was a little bit of backlash there publicly, because there are some things about Jason Kidd's history. He had a domestic violence conviction back during his playing days. He's had DUIs. There's issues, there's baggage that would come with Jason Kidd that I think people kind of came to realize that it would be sort of unpalatable for that hire to happen, even though that's Dame's guy, because they have a relationship and they're both from Oakland and they kind of have that connection. And so then this morning, Jason Kidd told Woj that he was withdrawing his name from consideration, which I feel like was probably just saving face, because I think they all knew like how much of a PR hit they would take if they hired him after all this stuff kind of got brought back up to the surface about, some stuff about his past and his personal life and all
Right.
that kind of stuff.
I mean, so like you said, he Dame kind of does this like superstar move, which I feel like it was maybe him asserting his status now as a true superstar in the league, to be like, I'm gonna be a de facto GM and say this is who I want. Then there's this that creates a fan backlash, at least on Twitter and social media, again because of Kidd's background. And then Kidd comes out today and says he's withdrawing his name. I mean, do you have a sense of what really happened there with at least with Kidd withdrawing his name? I mean, did Kidd do this independently? Did somebody from Dame's camp tell Dame that this would not be good for the team or for his brand, and then they somehow got to Kidd and kind of like nudged him to making this statement. I mean, it just seems the whole thing. It just seems very bizarre. I mean, what's your sense of why did Kidd make this statement to say, "Hey, I'm not even going to interview with the team"? But that seems just as weird as Dame as a star coming out and saying, "This is who I want," as the coach, and the coach coming out, a potential coach coming out and saying, "I'm not even going to interview just to make things easier for people." Like, what is going on here?
If I had to guess, and I haven't talked to anyone directly involved in this, but I'm just kind of reading between the lines here. I feel like if I had to guess how this went down, I would guess that Dame probably was actually not aware of the full extent of some of the stuff in Kidd's history with the domestic abuse conviction and some of the other stuff that would make this kind of not a great hire for, optics reasons. And I think once Dame was made aware of that stuff, Dame's not stupid. Dame understands, and Dame is also a guy that, he's so conscious of his brand and how he's perceived and all this other kind of stuff. I think he kind of realized that because of some of this stuff in Jason Kidd's history, that hire is probably going to be kind of a non-starter. And so I think they all just kind of maybe talked about it behind the scenes. I don't know whether this came from Jason Kidd independently or whether this came from Dame's camp talking to Kidd or whether it came from the Blazers talking to Kidd. But I think all parties just kind of came to the conclusion that, this is not going to happen. This is probably just can't happen because of those reasons. So let's just try to save face for everybody and let Kidd just kind of withdraw his name from consideration.
So Stotts is gone. And I think people are starting to wonder now, what is Neil Olshey's job security looks like? Does he get one more offseason to turn this around, do you think?
Oh, I don't think Neil's really under any real scrutiny at all. I think he's kind of the way this is going to play out. I think he's probably going to be able to get out of this pretty much unscathed because, look, the next couple of years they're going to do whatever Dame wants. He's going to pick his coach. Obviously, the Jason Kidd thing just blew up in his face a little bit, but within reason, he's going to get to pick his coach. He's going to have a lot more say in the roster moves and free agent signings and trades and stuff. I don't know whether CJ McCollum is going to get traded, but it's going to be, if Dame thinks that there's a trade out there that involves CJ, then they're going to do it. That would help the team. So the next couple of years, there's going to just be basically entirely everything Dame wants to do. We're going to do whatever we can do to make him happy so that he doesn't want to leave. And then in 2 years, once Dame only has 2 years left on his deal, and if things haven't turned around, he can more realistically demand a trade. Then Neil Olshey can kind of come out and say, well, we were just doing all the stuff Dame wants. None of this was my fault, and then get to keep his job. That would be kind of how I would guess that plays out. I would not expect that there would be a front office change anytime soon. The thing that's also complicating this is the Blazers ownership situation, because Jody Allen, Paul Allen's sister, has been controlling all of his estate since he passed away in 2018. And my understanding is that she's not really interested in owning the Blazers or the Seahawks long-term, and she would like to find a buyer for the team. And so there's just a whole lot of, stuff up in the air organizationally when the team is on the market and they haven't been able to find a buyer, and there's all this other kind of stuff that's going on there. So, who knows what's going to happen then with, the new owner. I'm sure the new owner, whoever buys the team, would be more willing to pay more money for the team if Damian Lillard is on the team. And so because of that, I don't think him getting traded, even if he wants it, even if he were to want it, would be a realistic option just from that standpoint. But, you don't know if somebody buys the team in a year and then they have their own person they want to bring in as the GM or as the president of basketball operations, and then Neil Olshey is out that way. But as it stands right now, I don't anticipate Neil Olshey having any kind of scrutiny on his job.